Hey everyone, welcome to Drive-By Reviews, where today we're talking about Poised and Deadly. What a pun, right? What a pun. Anyways, I thought we should talk about the event relics and the top titans we're going to see, because there's been a lot of discussion surrounding the specifics of the event, especially what the rewards are later on as you get towards, 11,000 souls or more, depending how aggressive you're being in this event. And so there's been a lot of comments. I won't go into all the details of them, but a lot of inquisition, a lot of inquiry on this. So let's take a look at it, because we've got the database, and the database has been updated, which is phenomenal, right? So let's start with Khamenei. Oh! Real quick, just a disclosure, not to brag, we are ranked 3 globally on this event. Boom, knocking it out of the park. Not as good as we want to be, though, because we, of course, want to be number 1, so we're still fighting for that. But number 3 is not bad. I mean, considering that 2 and 1 is just a higher level Khamenei, right? I think that's how I pronounce it, Khamenei. Oh, by the way, I found this is pretty amusing, too. There's exclusive awards throughout the entire reward list of alliances, right? For the alliances top and bottom. And what's funny is it's most exclusive on the top and the bottom. So on the very top, rank 1, rank 2, rank 3, right? We all get our individual prize, very different from everyone else's. Check it out. At the very bottom, alliance ranked 50,001 gets their own exclusive prize, different from everyone else's. 50,000. I just got to know which alliance out there is ranking 50,001, specifically that number. I think that's fantastic. Not 49,999. No, you've got to be exactly 50,001. And then 50,002 gets nothing. I mean, I'm pretty sure there's not exactly 50,001 alliances. So anyways, if you guys are 50,001 ranked alliance and you're active, please let me hear what's going on. Anyways, I guess you'd have to be somewhat active to even be ranked. But there you go. I was just curious. That's a funny. I think that's a funny rank line for me. All right, let's get to it. Khamenei. Okay, so taking a look at her, I find this interesting that this surprises people. That a lot of these relics are focused on panthers and panther damage and buffs and all that, because Khamenei herself, if you know anything about her, is all panther buffs. All of it. Look at this. Skill 1 through 5. Every single one is going to roll some sort of panther buff, and they can only really be between damage, critical, armor piercing, damage against titans, increasing charge damage, and increasing flanking damage. And out of those, the only one I really don't want to see is flanking damage, since that has to be really set up. I guess the next one I probably wouldn't want to see is charge damage, because that also has to be based on a run. Not a very long run, but you got to get a run in there in order to get it to work. But in any case, she buffs panthers. And as we know in this game so far, what we found out is if you're going to do something 50% with a titan or a relic, you might as well go 100%. And what does that mean? Well, with Khamenei, if she buffs panthers, why would you throw in anything that buffs her? You might as well throw on relics that buff panthers. So of course the relics should buff panthers if we're going to already go with the 4-star titan in this event going to be panther buffs. Not only that, they're pretty decent ones. I mean, if you look at this, if you max out these skills, 90% increase to panther damage on the last skill. If we change that to critical, right? 44% increase in critical. This is a kicker. 44% increase in armor penetration. I mean, 90% damage increase. If you combine that with 72% damage increase, you can just get a lot of perks for panthers off of this. So based on that mentality, Khamenei's already buffing panthers, right? We jump over and we take a look at Tainted Bow, one of the 4-star relics that you're going to get if you're getting towards Khamenei. You're going to get it right before you get her. And surprise, surprise, after buffing her poison damage as a berserker, it buffs Panther's damage and Panther's critical. All right? Which makes me kind of think, though, maybe if we're going to get that much of a critical buff and damage buff, maybe looking at armor piercing more so from the Khamenei, as far as like hoping that she gets that roll from her skills. And then if you go over to the Tainted Blade, you've got, again, more poison damage for Khamenei, another 60%, and then 50% damage again, and then armor piercing, which is nice, right? 30% armor piercing. Really, it makes it reasonable that your panthers, with a setup with Khamenei, are going to have a pretty significant amount of armor piercing. And considering the current setup of the game, where most people are more concerned about fire, ice, and physical, I wouldn't be surprised if you max this out, if you found quite a bit of holes in defenses. Even the Immortal Freyas out there, and the hard to kill, venom tusks and all that. I'm pretty sure they're not going to have very much poison resistance, which is the one thing you cannot reduce. You can reduce armor, and armor is being reduced right here with just the Tainted Blade. Not even Khamenei's skills, and not even anything else out there. And if you take a look at even our 3-star Akavu, right? Akavu, a champion. And as we all know about champions, they're basically all the same when it comes to their skills, right? They're going to have a defensive role, resist against something, and then they're going to have an offensive role, attack buff against, you know, critical, I believe it's critical, their own damage, or armor piercing, and then another one of those on the end after another resistance. So, you know, she's a classic champion Titan with a big difference being she does poison damage. So, is that a he? I think it's a dude, Akavu. Akavu, are you a dude? Anyways, he's basically a classic champion. Someone actually asked me just recently on the channel, what's my favorite 3-star Titan? And I think that's a really complicated question for one reason particularly, and that's obviously this game is about 4-star Titans, which is why these events are so huge. And so for me to say that, it's kind of tough, because what's the best 4-star Titan? If we're going to ask that question, it's really going to come down to your playstyle, and probably a champion or a paladin specifically, because resistance and armor is so overpowered right now compared to anything attack based for the most part. You know, Sarkon fans will argue with me on that one all day till they're blue in the face. But really right now, you take a look at what are the untouchable garrisons out there? It's going to be the insanely buffed defenses. So you talk about 3-star Titans, and really none of them are going to ever hold a candle to a 4-star Titan, not only because of their level and because of their one less relic slot and one less skill slot. It's all those things combined. And when it comes down to it, that changes everything. The question is no longer which 3-star Titan fits your gameplay best. It's now which 3-star Titan works best for what it ends up becoming. And all 3-star Titans are going to end up being basically either food for your 4-star Titan, or it's going to end up being a defensive Titan sitting on a land, most likely, not your garrison. So that means which 3-star Titan is the best at defending a land. Arguably everything that buffs something unexpected. So Akavu may end up being one of the best 3-star Titans to defend, simply because he can use those 4-star relics. If you're not going to use Khamenei, you throw some of those on him, and you have surprise, surprise, killer Panthers all of a sudden, which brings back maybe some of that days of old in beta. And then of course you look at things like Korea, right? The ever-hated Korea. She's got amazing she's got amazing skills that buff pikemen. And honestly, pikemen that all of a sudden don't fall, touch your Titan, and he dies are probably one of the most, I don't know, amusing defenses to run into. Now it takes a little bit of paying attention to on lands. You got to take a look, see what spells are there. So the probably people are going to look and see if Corey's got her skills maxed out. But that's why answering that question, what's the most, you know, powerful 3-star Titan, is really not one that can be answered besides maybe whimsically on a notion of what you're going to use your Titan for. So I'd say probably the best 3-star Titan on defense is something that can surprise people right now. Ice is pretty surprising. Poison's going to be pretty surprising after this. And then, you know, fire, not so much anymore. And that's why I love Durat. Durat's great, but on defenses, I don't know. He's good for defending lands, but he's no better than any other maxed out 3-star. Although I guess he's better than infiltrators and berserkers. Unless they catch people off guard, right? Could you imagine fully buffed spearmen? If like you could roll a full spearman buff. All right, so I thought I'd just take a look at that, because people are kind of mulling over this concept of an entire event being really focused on a unit that so many people don't use anymore, at least not for combat. You know, Panthers, again, are used a lot for spell runs. I think you guys have probably seen a lot of that in my videos early on when I was using them for spell runs. Not so much these days, as I'm not too concerned about spells anyways. Because it's really you got to dodge spells in the first place, and it takes enough work to control your Titan and your ranged units now that they want to go and attack on their own in the middle of a move order, a flee order from a spell, right? Run away, you idiots, and they want to attack. So the spell running nature of the Panthers for me has really kind of died down. The other aspect is maybe bringing 1 or 2 for distraction. I've seen some really high-end battles where Panthers are great for distracting units, and just those few seconds of them being pulled away to the flanks can give you enough time to win a battle, or enough time to take out maybe ranged units as they waste their shot, the 8-second shot of Grenadiers. And then last but not least, I've seen, you know, Panthers used as the filler troop, now that we know that you can just throw a couple troops in and do an attack and lose them, especially right now during, you know, 200 raids a day type events. Those are the 3 uses of Panthers. So this is kind of new terrain, and I think it's a good idea to go this way. What I'd really like to see, I think personally, for the Panthers as I work on this particular type of setup, we'll see what my Khamenei rolls, or my Khameneis. I'm going to get more than 1 probably, maybe 3. I'm really looking to see the Panthers, especially when I attack them, stop being so dumb when it comes to attack. Now, recently, I don't know, I don't think there was a change, but recently I've noticed they've actually been doing better on attacking my archers. I actually leave my archers open to them on purpose for this very reason, because I'm considering using Panthers on defense. And if they run into the archers and then sit there and take a full shot from all units of arrows before they do any more damage, that's a serious problem with Panthers that has existed for a little while now. And then beyond that, when I use them on attack, I want the same thing. I'm looking for the same thing. I'm looking for them to attack and attack and attack, because it already sucks that their main damage is just the first hit. Their damage is so low. What, like 160 at level 14? Thank you. Let's take a look. Level 14, 160. Yeah, even maxed out at level 25. Their attack's 1192 compared to other units. I mean, what cracks me up about that is you look at these Panthers, and they're not tanks, right? 36,000 health, 1,100 attack, or 1,200 attack. Not really any armor to speak of, 5%. And you go look at our tanks in the game, Goliaths, and hang on, let's max them out. They're killing the Panthers in HP, in armor, and they hit so much harder. Now, I understand that they're just trying to diminish the 3 times charge attack of the Panthers, but that's ridiculous. I mean, just compared to Goliath, they're unusable. I mean, you might as well send your Goliath out to take out the ranged units with how slow he is. It doesn't matter. Anyways, I get what they were trying to balance it, but that's just, I think that's the concept people are running against when they're looking at these Panther buffs. They're like, what am I going to use these Panther buffs for? Well, I'd be curious when you stack them up how they actually hit and work, especially if they continue to damage. I'd like to see the Panthers a little more deadly on their AI moves as far as what they decide to do when you let them go on their own. They should be really quick on their feet. If the whole thing about Panthers is the fact that they're nimble and deadly on their first attack, they need to actually be nimble after they do the attack. And at the same time, they're way too susceptible to the ranged units. The fact that the ranged units can hit them with pinpoint accuracy unless you tell them to zigzag is crazy. They should be fast enough to dodge that stuff. Just like when you attack Panthers when they first come at you, that should be always the case. Even when you're attacking and you send them out, they should miss on the first time every time. Otherwise, the Panthers are not fast enough and nimble enough to make up their lack of damage and lack of HP. That's my consideration. But in the meantime, I think it's pretty nice. I think the setup's actually pretty awesome that we're looking at with a possible max Khamenei with max skills on these Panther buffs, and then the relics that combine right next to it with the Tainted Bow and Tainted Blade that actually work pretty well to give the Panther a pretty even spread on critical, armor piercing, and damage buff just on the relics, not even counting the skills coming from a 4-star Berserker. Poison Berserker. Alright, there we go. I just thought that was an interesting aspect of discussing on the current Poison event as we kind of work through that. Once again, feel free to kind of try and make your way through the ranks because we are rank 3. Good luck trying to get up into the top 4. I believe it's top 4 now that we got to hit. Because if you're up there, you get another Khamenei. And then you got to maybe really play around with different versions of Khamenei as you unlock the skill sets. Hopefully they're completely different. So you can try out 2 of those different methods as far as buffing up your Panthers and trying to see if they're as deadly as they seem to be on paper with this much improvement in their skill set. All right, guys, thanks for tuning in. See you out there in the fray. And good luck getting to 20,000 souls. 20,000 souls, trying for so long to get that grind into my song. And it's like zip bam bam boom, zip bam bam sweet ow, zip bam bam wadam boom, zip bam bop the grind.